What happens to make you say, that was memorable? That was the experience that I was looking for. And that's really what we strive for here at Bottega.
This podcast is sponsored by Release Winery. Join us as the story of this ultra-limited wine continues. Learn more at releasewinery.com.
I'm in Yountville for this week at Premier Napa Valley. Although this podcast probably won't run for several months, I'm here with Stephen Arnold. Stephen is the wine director here, as well as sommelier at Bottega, which is a restaurant, as our listeners may notice in the background. Steve, how are you?
I am fantastic. Very happy to be here. Happy to chat with you today.
Thank you. It's fun to be here, and this is a really cool restaurant. It's Yountville, of course. It's going to be cool, but great feel. We're in the wine room, which is a place I would be happy to die. It's wine.
That's it. You're here. Yeah. You get to sit with all of our amazing bottles. Have our private dining room, one of them. Bottega is really, the heartbeat of Napa Valley, and we're very fortunate to have all the winemakers and vineyard owners that are here all the time. It's the hub.
Yeah.
For Napa Valley for sure.
How long has Bottega been here?
So Bottega was founded in 2008 by chef Michael Chiarello. So Michael Chiarello was a Food Network star. He was an Iron Chef for a period of time. He did pass away a couple of years ago. But in 2021, he had appointed Alex Espinosa as the executive chef. It was the first executive chef appointed by Michael. And since then, Chef Alex has been continuing to kind of put his fingerprints on the menu while also carrying along a lot of those traditions and paying homage to the philosophies and the culinary recipes that Michael Chiarello created.
Hospitality is a monster word in my world because it makes you feel good to be that way with people, doesn't it?
That's exactly what hospitality is about. It's about how do we make our guests feel. They want to come out to eat. They want to be seen. Everybody wants to be seen in a way. And how do we go above and beyond your normal service? And anyone can go out and have a good dinner. They can have a great glass of wine. They can have a great meal. But what is going to separate that? What is going to be? What happens to make you say that was memorable? That was the experience that I was looking for, and that's really what we strive for here at Bottega.
So let's talk about you. You're from New Hampshire originally.
I am. I'm from Portsmouth, New Hampshire, East Coast. Not a lot of wine going on in New Hampshire. Some local stuff. Great little place. Napa actually reminds me a little bit of home in a way. Yeah.
I don't hear an accent.
No, I don't have an accent. If you listen to my parents, though, they're from Boston, so they definitely have it. Yeah. Maybe a glass or two of wine will start to come out just a little bit, but not too much of an accent. Let's say when I say wine, I think what I mean by wine is more vitis vinifera, your classic wine grapes. So you're growing some non-vitis vinifera grapes there, like Concord, for example. Yeah, very cold weather, so it doesn't do great. New Hampshire is also a controlled state, so there's they have to approve all the wines that are coming in and out of the state and what's for sale. So it's a little bit limited, although over the last decade or two, you've started to see quite a big expansion for what they're offering in the state, and they're all run by liquor stores as well.
Talking to somms, wine directors, it's a very different world because you are the real conduit to me, to the wine drinker. As I always ask, when did that bug bite you?
So my parents, to take it back a little bit, my parents didn't really drink. My dad drank Miller Lite. My mom, doesn't drink. So I was never exposed to wine. My uncle, during Thanksgiving, he'd go to like Maryvale, he'd have some bottles on the table at Thanksgiving, and I was like, it's red wine. I don't know much about it, Then I started working at a fine dining hotel with my brother. We had a fairly good-sized program. But I remember being a server in my early 20s and walking around the dining room, and I'm looking at the wine cellar and saying, wow, this bottle's $3,000 or this one's $1,000. And it's like, well, why are they so expensive? And then I sat back and I thought to myself, I said, well, I'm getting these high-end clients that are coming in, and I'm the one that's taking care of them. And it's going to happen where they're going to ask me a question or two about some of these wines. And I want to evolve a little bit more than being able to say, this is white and this is a red and this one has bubbles in it.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, so, I decided I'm going to start to learn about it on my own, and I started to read, Kevin Zraeli's books, and I read Karen McNeil's books and started to be like, wow, this is art and it's history and it's not a recipe. And it's so cool. You and I could make Cabernet Sauvignon. We could plant them the same way, and we do everything identical to each other. but the wine at the end is different. And it's like, well, how is it different? Wow, you have better, sun exposure, and I have, different soil composition. And I thought that was really fascinating. And then I tasted some Canubi Barolo with about 25 years of age on it, and I said, wait a minute. This isn't Carlo Rossi sangria that I've had in the past, This doesn't even taste like fruit. This is amazing, and it hooked me, And then I just love the restaurant business. I love meeting new people every single day. I love the excitement that comes with this, this profession, and never knowing what bottle you're going to pull off the shelf that day and open up and get to check it out. And it keeps everything fresh all the time, and it's just really, really exciting. Sometimes I feel like I'm, 50% wine director, 50% therapist in a way. You go up and you try to engage with all these people, and some of them have great days and some of them had bad days, and it's all about kind of reading the table and assessing, do they want to engage with you tonight or not?
Sure.
But that's the beautiful thing about this business. You just never know. You're always on your toes. It's that controlled chaos that comes with it.
Well, it brings me to a question I've always been curious about. I've had a good couple of years without finding a corked bottle. Now, that could be simply my palate's not as good as I think it is, which it's like we all think that. But you run into that, I'm sure, more frequently than the average bear. What do you do when it's not?
So that's a tough one. It's there's a lot of different things that you can do with that. Number one, if it's corked, obviously I'm not going to give you the wine. I prefer not to do that. Now, if they're older bottles, the way that we do things here at Bottega, let's say you were to buy a bottle from 1980, for example, and what I'm going to do is decant it for you because there's going to be sediment in that wine. So I'll do it off to the side and I'll assess the wine, and if the bottle is corked, you're never going to know about it. I'm going to go get a different one, and I'm going to find the right one that's perfect for you, and I'm going to pour it for you. So you're never going to experience that. We also do some table side opening as well, and from time to time you will get a bottle that I'm not tasting at the table with you, and I might pour it, and you might say, oh, this is a little off, and the first thing I want to do is get that bottle right off the table for you. Try to get you another bottle, because not every bottle is going to be corked, that's in that same batch. But also there's, maybe I'm going to go ahead and pick a different wine for you just because that might not have been the best first impression.
When you get a corked bottle, though, are you able to send it back to where you get it?
I certainly ask.
I'm sure you do.
A lot of the winemakers, they want to know.
Yeah,
and the
right,
people that
right.
own these businesses, they want to make sure that there's not a trail of bottles that are bad. And they got a bad batch of corks. So they definitely want to know, and I think it's kind of my duty as well as a wine steward is to inform them that, hey, I picked up a 6-pack of these wines and half of them are corked. You might want to go and check. And oftentimes, I think being here in Napa and dealing a lot with Napa Valley wines that we have in the program, they're very accommodating to us and usually replace them without questions asked.
You are here in Napa Valley. Are you able to purchase directly from wineries, or do you have to go through that system?
No, you can. You can absolutely. There's quite a few wines here. There could be some smaller producers that I'll go directly to. It's just a kind of a direct relationship. Yeah. But then there's other ones where I want to make sure that I have great relationships with the reps, from all these distribution companies, and I am buying from them significantly. I would say the vast majority of the wines that I do purchase are directly through the distribution companies. But if I'm looking for back vintage wines, which we're trying to do here as well, I will go to the winemakers that I've met, or I'll go give the winery a phone call. Hey, this is Steve from Bottega. I'm really looking to get a vertical going of some of your wines. What vintages might you have available that this distributor doesn't have available? And I'll do it that way. But I definitely don't want to step on toes for sure. I want to make sure that I'm respecting both parties.
How long were you in LA?
About 6 years.
Oh, it's good. Yeah, good period of time.
Yeah, no. When I was I actually moved from New Hampshire to Boston. I worked in the Seaport at Del Frisco's Double Eagle Steakhouse.
Oh, nice.
And that was kind of my introduction to big Bordeaux and Napa cabs, and after a while, I was like, I've never been a person that was a fan of the snow. I hate dealing with it. It's pretty to look at. Don't want to do anything else with it. And I said, where can I go, be exposed to the greatest wine in the world, fast track my sommelier, skill set, and wake up and wear shorts every day? And I said, I think Los Angeles is the place for me. So I moved to Los Angeles, and I was looking for work, and I said, I know I want to work in Beverly Hills. And I found Wally's in Beverly Hills, and I didn't know anything about it other than the job listing said Wally's Fine Wine and Spirits, and I said, well, this has got to be a good start. And I took an Uber, and I pulled up to the facade, and I saw it, and I said, I'm working here. And, I was there for a little over, almost 4 years, which was great, just before COVID, through COVID. But what an incredible experience that was. I met so many amazing people there. I got to try some of the greatest wines in the world. Sommeliers can go their entire career and never taste Domaine de la Romanée Conti or Chateau Petrus or, some of these Firth grows. That's not a fault to what they're doing, but they might just work in a program that doesn't have the resources to provide those wines, or they might and when you do have guests coming in with the bottles, you're not always inclined to ask them for a taste of their wine, so you kind of wait for the opportunity for those to come. And I was just very fortunate that I was able to work there, and I got to taste Loire, and I got to taste Armand Rousseau and Roumier and all these incredible stuff.
You had said you'd moved here 9 months ago, so I'm curious, are you in the process of developing relationships with these winemakers? Do you get a chance to go out and taste or just hang out, maybe something in the cellar, that sort of thing?
Absolutely. I'm very fortunate to be at Bottega. Bottega, as I mentioned in the very beginning, I call it the heartbeat of Napa Valley. This is the place where all the winemakers want to come. This is the place where the brand owners are here. They're here on a regular basis every single night. I remember my first night walking in here. Actually, for lunch, I walked in my first day, and I get to meet Tim Mondavi. And I thought that was really cool, and I got to go. He invited me up, and I did a private tasting with him, and I brought Chef Alex with me as well, and that was an incredible experience. But that same evening, walking around the dining room, there's Benoit Toquette, and there's Philippe Melka, and Mayan Kashitsky, and Sam Kaplan, and I'm just looking around like, is this real life? For me being in LA, I dealt with a lot of celebrities, I dealt with a lot of famous athletes over and over again, to the point where, you don't even blink. You're just like, oh, they're back again, this is great. Yeah. But for me, these are my celebrities.
These are the rock stars.
These are the people that when I got into wine, I started reading about, and I knew their names, and I tasted their wine. But now I get to meet them in person, and they're so humble, and they're so generous, and it's really, really special. And I've been able to, in the short period of time I've been here, make a lot of really wonderful connections with them, and have gone to some amazing tastings as well. I'd love to go to a lot more, that's for sure.
Bottega is a really beautiful, I don't know if I want to say stylish, just friendly, warm-feeling restaurant. It's certainly very high-end, right here in Yountville, a very well-known restaurant area in general. But for our listeners who'd like to learn a little bit more about the restaurant and perhaps a bit about you, Steve, what's the website here?
The website is BottegaNapaValley.com. You go on there, they have a beautiful little photo feed. You'll be able to see some nice images and galleries of the restaurant. You'll be able to read the menu. A lot of restaurants don't include wine lists, but ours is fully there, so you'll be able to see it every time I update the wine list, which is pretty frequently, I would say weekly. We're always republishing that, so everything's accurate and up to date. So please go on the website, BottegaNapaValley.com, take a look, and we'd love to have you here. And please let us know when you do come that you listened to the interview on this podcast, and that's why you're here, and we'd love to take care of you.
Excellent. Very kind of you. Thank you very much. And thank you for your time. I'm sure you're busy on a Sunday night here, and this room is just gorgeous. You can go do your business, and I'm just going to curl up in the corner and, pretty much lay there for a while.
There you go. Find a good bottle for you.
Thank you, man.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for your time.
This podcast is sponsored by Release Winery. Join us as the story of this ultra-limited wine continues. Learn more at releasewinery.com.